Welcome back, everyone. Yes, I had a day off yesterday, but we are back in the saddle today because it is the start of a huge period of shows on KBS. Oh boy, and we're kicking it all off today, talking about the giants, the gods, the dragons with Derek Gilbert. And I have got a story about the Leviathan for all of you that we can chill out over, get in the mood for the main show today. And of course, we'll be talking about the other monster from the Loch. A little bit dramatic on the way in with the music today, right? But how are you all doing out there in the 5D crazy reality that is 2020? I hope you're all doing well. I hope I still find you a semi-level of sanity. Yes, you got to be a little bit insane in the membrane. Great song. You got to be a little bit insane to navigate your way through 2020, don't you, Justin? It's great to see everyone back in today after a little day off yesterday. Yes, I'm a slacker. I'm a skiver. What can I say, folks? But hopefully you don't hold it against me and we're back and I've got great stuff for us today. Today's going to be an absolutely fantastic show. It truly, truly is. And we have to thank War. Big shout out to War in the chat room because he was the person that came to me and said, Kev, have you ever checked out this guy called Derek Gilbert? Boy, oh boy, did he send me down a rabbit hole indeed. Tonight is going to be off the chain. It's going to be just raising the bar material on KBS because we've got him. Derek Gilbert is going to be coming on the show to talk about, amongst other things, his new book, which is Giants, Gods, and Dragons. Come on now. I mean, isn't that just the perfect kind of thing for KBS? Now, before any of you say it, I'll get it out the way first. I imagine there's going to be some of you going out there or thinking to yourself out there, aha, but Kev had on a guest recently that said that the giants weren't a thing. You see, this is where I get to truly demonstrate that I provide and you decide. I will get as many different sources to cover the one story that we can, so we get as many different angles. And when it comes to any ancient text, folks, the Bible included, it's something that we are meant to interpret. And because of that, we all have different interpretations of what appears to be the exact same information. And tonight, when we get into Derek's interpretation of what's going on, it's going to blow your mind. Now, he's a regular over on Skywatch TV. Many of you will probably know of his work already. He's a prolific author. Just bring this up here. 2 seconds. There we go. He has wrote a number of books, as you can see here. Perfect guest for KBS. And we will be getting into a whole host of things. Now, his website is over here. Brilliant name for a website. Weapon of Mass Distraction. I like that. I do like that. But before we get into the Leviathan today, let me come into the chat room. Let me see who we've got kicking about in there. War. Big up to you, bro. Definitely thank you for tonight. For putting this guest in my consciousness, in my psyche. Like a laser beam. We went out and got him. And I've been gorging on Derek Gilbert information all day. I got my hands on a PDF copy of Gods, giants and dragons. Almost forgot the name of it there. I've been able to flick through like the contents of it and have a look at some of the subjects in that one book. And that one book alone could probably spawn about 10 shows. No joke. And of course, Derek also covers world events, end times, eschatology. I'll be asking him about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. I'll be getting into the seals, the trumpets, the dragons of the Bible, no less. So I hope you can all join me for that. First Paranormal, you're going to love this one. I know you're going to love it. And remember, check out First Paranormal here on YouTube. My one of my favourite paranormal investigators. And he's a whole lot more than just that, folks. He's our friend Jason, and we know he is absolutely brilliant. We've got Leslie. Leslie, you've been ominous in your absence. I thought for a moment I must have offended you, but it's great to see you back. I'm a bit worried about you not having your own thoughts, though. You're going to have to tell us more about that over in Disco, I think. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, folks, scroll back up the chat. You'll see. We've got Malaya in the chat room as well. Good to see you. Who else? I seen Rick sneaking in earlier on. Rick, my man, how you doing, bro? We've got Regla in there as well. There's Rick. Polynation, good to see you, man. We've got the Bernaise sauce. Can't go anywhere without your Bernaise sauce. We've got Skipper Key Philo. Loving it. Who else we got in here? Let me see. The Wook. Can't go on without mentioning the Wook. Come on, man. Jules. Now, Polly was first today. Jules second. And I think by the looks of it, the Wook was third. There we go. Still more people filing in. Olin. That's a new name, I think. Olin Thorson. Would I be right in hazarding a guess that you're Norwegian? It's going to be Norway, Denmark, or Sweden. And 1 out of 3. I've got a 33% chance, right? But we're going to just chill out for the next, half hour, 40 minutes before I go and get Derek for the show. And we're going to keep it on the topic of what we're going to be getting into tonight. And Leviathan. That's one monster, beastie, ooga booga that I can think of from the Bible. So I thought we'll take a look at what that's all about before we head on over to the main show, and we'll get Derek to tell us more about it. More about a whole host of other things. We'll be talking about something I'd never heard of before today. And that's something called the 70 weeks timeline. Any of you heard that? What is this timeline and where are we on it? Are we pre-trib, post-trib? Have there been? Are we looking for a rapture coming? All this kind of stuff. All this kind of stuff. I'm going to be interrogating Derek Gilbert from 10 p.m. in the UK today. So that's an hour from now. Okay, an hour from now we'll be getting into Olin, some Torsk. I'm always missed for roll call. Not today, Olin. Not today. Where are you from, man? Thorson Norsk, Thorson Dansk. He's one of the 3. He's one of the 3. Are you like... If I was to say Henrik Larsson is my favourite footballer ever, would that please you? If that pleases you, Olin, that's going to narrow it down for me dramatically. It's going to take those 3 options and make them 1. You feel me? But I tell you what, there's stories of dragons and beasties over in Scandinavia. Remember all that good Viking stuff that we got into with Max from Germany? Okay then. So, you know, just in the name of fairness, I like to make fun of people on the show. Not often, but I do. And I think it's only fair that we make fun of me when I make a mistake as well, because 1 out of 3, no, wrong. Minnesota, with a name like Olin, where did you go, Olin? Olin Thorson, why didn't I guess it would be Minnesota? I bet you know that friend of ours, Nacy, don't you? I bet you do. So if we come over here, folks, before we get into the Leviathan, let me remind you, of course, there's that shiny big blue join button on there. And you're more than welcome to click that and join the madness. What madness, I hear you say? Well, we have our VIP lounge on a Sunday, and it looks a little something Like that. Oh, you get a little peek. Oh, and there's new stuff for all you members out there. The um, just looking, breaking news coming through there, folks. But it's not on topic. It's not on point. To be precisely honest, to be perfectly honest, it's not even interesting. So if we get into this here, right? Remember, you get all the emojis as well. Members, start throwing those emojis about, please. Let's tempt people in. Show them what they get. Show them what they get for their money. I know, it's not exactly brilliant, but you get a shoe, you get an eyeball, you get a koala, you get a Mothman, you even get a safe space. Look, all that if you click join, but you don't have to. Anyway, let's get into this. So, the Leviathan. And of course, this is setting us up for tonight's show about giants, gods, and dragons. Oh, yes, indeed. With Derek Gilbert. And I am, fingers crossed, throwing prayers up to the big man that this is the start of a very fruitful relationship. And by that, I mean we will be able to form a lasting relationship, friendship with Derek, so he will be able to come on time after time into the future. I've got a feeling he's going to be one of these guests. I don't know. Usually when I get a good feeling like this, it's a good sign. So the Leviathan says here that the Leviathan is a creature with the form of a sea serpent from Jewish mythology. Now it's referenced in several books of the Hebrew Bible, including Psalms, the book of Job, the book of Isaiah, and the book of Amos. It is also mentioned in the apocryphal book of Enoch. Now that there, I've never read the book of Enoch, but there's something's always appealed to me when you ban something. Like, that's one of the banned books of the Bible. Now, I don't know, I think it's human nature when something is occulted, when you're told not to look at it or it's taken out of something. It just gives it an added kind of woo factor, don't you think? And when you get into some of the stories contained in the Book of Enoch, I think it should just be called the Book of Woo. It really should. However, I digress, and you know I'm bad for that. The Leviathan of the Book of Job is a reflection of the older Canaanite Lotan, a primeval monster defeated by the god Baal Hadad. Interesting name, Baal Hadad. Yes, I think it is that Baal by the looks of it. Parallels to the role of Mesopotamian Tiamat defeated by Marduk have long been drawn in comparative mythology, as have been wider comparisons to dragon and world serpent narratives such as Indra slaying Vritra, I think, or Thor slaying Jormungandr. Jormungandr. Olin, now I need you. You see, Leviathan also figures in the Hebrew Bible as a metaphor for a powerful enemy, notably Babylon. Now, some 19th century scholars have pragmatically interpreted it as referring to large aquatic creatures, such as the crocodile. Now, the word later came to be used as a term for the great whale and for sea monsters in general. Now, it's one thing we never ever called the Loch Ness Monster. Although, when I say that, I have to add in that I have heard it one time, but I think only because it came up in conversation. I think somebody was asked, would you call it the biblical Leviathan? I think that's how it came up in that context. But let's see what it says here about it, right? Let's see what it says here. And I've got news about Loch Ness monsters and Crowleys coming up when we get through a little bit of this. And I don't want to go too deep into the whole Leviathan thing. I'm just really wanting to set the tone, set the stage, get our minds in that kind of woo frame of mind, ready for what is going to be a spectacular show. Am I building it up too much? Well, we'll see. This man can talk. He's brilliant. So the name is a derivation or a derivation from the root to twine to join with an adjectival suffix or blah blah blah. Right, what else have we got? Sea serpents feature prominently in mythology of the ancient Near East. Now, they are attested by the 3rd millennium BC in Sumerian iconography depicting the god Nanutra overcoming a 7-headed serpent. Think of that, folks. A 7-headed monster. Now, I'm going to be getting into things like, do we have any actual tangible archaeological and scientific evidence for some of the things that we're going to be discussing from the Bible tonight? Because I think Derek Gilbert's got us covered. That's what elevates this to higher levels of woo. We've got potential science to back up the kind of stuff that we're talking about tonight, folks. It's going to be awesome. So it says here, it was common for Near Eastern religions to include a Chaskampf, a cosmic battle between a sea monster representing the forces of chaos and a creator god or culture hero who imposes order by force. Now, the Babylonian creation myth describes Marduk's defeat of the serpent goddess Tiamat, whose body was used to create the heavens and the earth. So it says here the Leviathan is mentioned 5 times in the Tanakh. It says Job is dedicated to describing him in detail. Behold, the hope of him is in vain. Shall not one be cast down even at the sight of him? Including a lengthy description in his fire-breathing ability, or is his fire-breathing ability. So in Job and in Psalms, God is praised for having made all things, including Leviathan. And in Isaiah 27:1, he is called the torturous serpent, who will be killed at the end of time. And that's another reason why, away from the infotainment factor that woo can bring us, I've often said, and I stand by it, that you can't separate the physical and the spiritual worlds, okay? So for every bit of craziness and upheaval and disruption that there's been in our physical world this year, in my mind, for what it's worth, and you can take it or leave it, but as above, so below, or as in this realm, so in the next. Depends how you want to think about it. But that physical realm that we're in and that spiritual realm are connected, they're entangled. And that's why I'm going to be really keen to get Derek's take on where we are in the biblical timeline of things. How crazy does it have to get before the good guys turn up? You know, and I try to cater for all belief systems on here, so I don't necessarily walk the path of just the Christian kind of worldview and only present it from that. So I don't want to get too far into the whole kind of just the Christian aspect of it here, because there's other end times prophecies from other religions as well. And I want to see how Derek's research, what he makes of where we are right now, and just how far away we are from, for lack of a better term, the big man coming down with a big hand and sorting it all out. You know, what is the red line? Where's the line in the sand that we have to cross before we enter that end times with the Leviathan coming back for that battle? I know people out there who maybe aren't religious minded, they'll say it's all just metaphors and stories and hey, I can't tell you it is or it isn't, but it's going to be great to get it from Derek's perspective, his research. He's been to Israel, done a lot of videos over in Israel as well, talking to rabbis. So I think he takes it right back to the old Hebrew version, which is really good, which is really, really good. So all of this stuff, my mind is so full of questions that I want to hit Derek with tonight. But if we come back, we'll come back again. We'll look more. We'll go more into this, right? I will shut up. Well, I won't shut up, because if I shut up, that would make a really boring stream. And I would just have to sit here and my mind to your mind, right? I know Luna said I've got a bit of that telepathy thing going on. I seriously, I'm not saying I don't. I just say it's like a... Ever seen like a, when a pylon comes down, there's been a storm or something, and you see the wire and it's arcing around and whoosh, totally out of control? If I've got a telepathic kind of signal in my brain, that's what it looks like. It's like a big rope here, there, everywhere. I don't know how I'll get into that, but hey-ho. The mention of tannins in Genesis creation narrative, translated as great whales in the King James Version, and Leviathan and Sam, do not describe them as harmful, but as ocean creatures who were part of God's creation. So the element of competition between God and the sea monster, and the use of the Leviathan to describe the powerful enemies of Israel, may reflect the influence of the Mesopotamian and Canaanite legends, or the contest in Egyptian mythology between Apep, snake, and the sun god Ra. Alternatively, the removal of such competition may have reflected an attempt to neutralize Leviathan in a process that demoted it from deity to demon to monster. Wow, it fell down. The fall for the Leviathan was great. Oh yes, it was. We'll be getting into those tonight as well, the fallen ones. Oh, dearie me, it's going to be good. So it says later Jewish sources described Leviathan. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, time travelers, interdimensional creepers. We're talking about dragons. Dragons. Oh, yeah. Who lies... Oh, so it says here. Right, here we go. Later Jewish sources describe Leviathan as a dragon who lives over the sources of the deep, and who, along with the land or the male land monster, Behemoth, will be served up to the righteous at the end of time. I think Behemoth walks the earth today. I think Behemoth walks the earth today. There's my claim, folks. How can Kev Baker say that without backing it up? Has anyone taken a look at the mayor of Chicago? We'll take a look at Big Lightfoot, or she should be called Bigfoot. I'm having a laugh, folks. I'm having a laugh. She does look creepy. Will be served up at the righteous, up to the righteous at the end of time. Now, the book of Enoch, the verboten one, describes Leviathan as a female monster dwelling in the watery abyss as Tiamat, while Behemoth is a male monster living in the desert of the Dunedin. Now, you might be thinking that was a bit inappropriate, Kev making a joke about a female mayor of Chicago being like a male creature from the Bible. Hey, listen, I ain't claiming there's anything. I'm not even going there. I'm not going there. Not going there. Just go and check her out. So when the Jewish Midrash, and that's explanations on the Tanakh, I think that's how you pronounce that. If not, I'm butchering it and I'm going to hell forever, were being composed, it was held that God originally made a male and a female Leviathan. Oh, holy moly. But lest in multiplying the species should destroy the world, he slew the female, reserving her flesh for the banquet that will be given to the righteous on the advent of the Messiah. And Rashi's commentary on Genesis repeats the tradition. The sea monsters, the great fish of the sea, and in the words of Agada, this refers to Leviathan and its mate, for he created them male and female, and he slew the female and salted her away for the righteous in the future. But it would propagate. The world could not exist of them. Something is written. The word yud, which denotes the plural, is missing, hence the implications that the Leviathan did not remain 2, but that this number was reduced to 1. So, let's see what else it's got down here. Christianity. Leviathan can also be used as an image of, the big one. The bad boy himself, Satan, endangering both God's creatures by attempting to eat them and God's creation by threatening it with the upheaval in the waters of chaos. You see, that's why I think it's maybe a good time to be talking about the Leviathan. I think one word that not everyone would probably land on if you had to sum up 2020 in one word. Chaos would fit, right? Chaos would definitely fit. And the Leviathan, it does become kind of almost synonymous with chaos, chaotic times, and especially when you've got this depiction of it actually being Satan. And that's what kind of brings me to the other monster update I've got today. Not the Loch Ness monster, but a monster that lived by Loch Ness. Because when it comes to chaos, this guy was arguably one of the best chaos magicians out there. I think we can agree, for better or worse. I'm not saying we have to agree with what the dude was saying, but Crowley was certainly in the higher echelons of the magical world. And I would think you could call his magic chaos magic. Maybe not precisely. Maybe if there was an expert on Crowley here or magic. And bear in mind, Jimmy Jeans for me is, I think, 50% confirmed wizard. Only joking, Jimmy. Well, I don't know. Maybe you are. But I don't know. I think there is a connection. And whether there is or not, it's how I'm segueing into the next part of the show. If you hadn't guessed it yet, you haven't been hanging around with me long enough. But we're going back to Boleskine. Oh, God. Even seeing the picture of this place. You know, it was walking right across the front of there. Like from the left side of the picture to the right side of the picture, where I said, you know, this place could surely do with Bill Bean's warrior angels coming to visit. Boy, oh boy. And then it was a week after that, second fire took place. Now, you know how I roll. Not the kind of guy to sit here and say, look what we done when we were up there. We called forth powerful warrior angels. Now, just because I wouldn't sit here and claim that doesn't mean that it didn't happen. Something happened. And I tell you what, the more the restoration program kicks into gear, up in the Highlands, right beside where my mum is right now, the more the locals are starting to get a little bitty fearful. You got to really imagine what it's like up there. You're still talking about a part of the world that's very remote. It's the Highlands of Scotland. We are in the 21st century. They do have internet and they do have cars and things like that, contrary to what some people will tell you. We have moved away from the horse and buggy a long time ago. But there's also still a free Presbyterian population up there. The wee free church, as they call it. Rick in the chat room will know what I'm talking about. When it comes to things like even playing a game of cards on a Sunday, that can be frowned upon and you can be condemned to the fiery place by these people. They'll never speak to you again because they think that Sundays should be reserved for absolutely the day of rest, the way it should be. Okay, so they do everything on the Saturday night, nothing on a Sunday, and if they see you doing anything up there, oh man, you're the talk of the village, right? But it used to be. And bear in mind, I haven't lived there for over 20 years now. I'm sure it's not as bad as it used to be. But that doesn't take away the fact that when something like Aleister Crowley's house has been refurbished and rebuilt and opened up as some Thelema spiritual retreat centre, you better believe the locals are getting a bit itchy under the collar. They're getting a bit worried about this, and we're going to talk about it after I get just a little drink of coffee, and then we'll get into the Leviathan of Loch Ness. Only it looks like us, or he did look like us. Not much anymore, I wouldn't imagine. But yes, we'll be talking about the latest from Boleskine. And like I say, the locals are not happy. Jimmy Jeans is in the chat room. He's in the chat room. Yes, indeed. Jimmy, are you 50% wizard? Are you? Am I undercooking your wizardry skills, Jim? That's exactly right. Don't be doing nothing on a Sunday, man. Oh, tell you, you'll be like the gossip in the local pub for like a month, and you'll be thinking, what? But they're so religious, why did they go to the pub? Oh, because, hey, 6 days a week, you do what you want, right? But hey, don't do it on the Sabbath. Very soon, less than an hour now, 37 minutes. Oh yeah. I think a wizard hat emoji sounds absolutely fantastic. Wouldn't it be better if it has Jimmy's head in it though? Will we have a Jimmy the Wizard emoji? Will we? That's it, folks. We've decided the next emoji we get is going to be Jimmy the Wizard. Jimmy will love that as well. I know you will, Jim. I know it. I know it. Giants, freak, queen goddess out. Oh, better believe it. Better believe it. Let's get back to Loch Ness before we need to go. I've seen somebody asking in the chat room, when does the show start? It's a very good question. Well presented, good timing. The show starts in 35 minutes, sir, over at tfrlive.com, or if you're really lucky, you can catch it over in Disco as well. And we'll be uploading the show to the main Kev Baker Show channel right after today's show. We're putting more and more content back on the main channel now, so remember, keep an eye on what's going on over there. Kev Baker Show. Just search it on YouTube. You'll find Kev Baker Show and Kev Baker Show 2, where we do all of our live work, where we keep it real, where we have our woo, we have our fun, we leave our politics at the door, and we come in here. We've even got our own members suite here on KBS 2, where we get into some real good woo. Don't know what we're going to do this Sunday. Maybe Jimmy can come along and hang out, and we'll shoot the breeze. So then, anyway, with that said, what's happening at Boleskine House? I hear you saying, what is this talk? Well, a plea to the occultist not to spoil the house renovation. So, remember this here, on the face of it, there's a Boleskine Foundation, and they want to restore it to its former Edwardian glory. Lovely property, back in its heyday. Lovely property right up until the fires happened. Nothing wrong with wanting to restore it to its architectural beauty and splendour. However, it's the other activities around the property, the Boleskine estate, which has people somewhat worried, as we're going to find out. So it says Highland councillors have approved plans for the restoration of the former home of notorious occultist Aleister Crowley. Now, last time I spoke to you about this, it was just going through planning permission, remember? And a number of locals had raised the issue that they were quite concerned about what was going to be going on at Boleskine in the near future. But they were told, don't worry about it. You know, we've got no interest in Aleister Crowley. Just ignore the fact that one of them has written a book all about his love of Aleister Crowley. Hey, it is what it is, right? So it says Boleskine House overlooking Loch Ness was left in ruins by two recent fires, neither of which have ever been explained. Let me just re-emphasize that. In today's world of forensic science and things like that, not one but two fires they could not find the source of. But that's pretty weird unto itself, right? Right? I mean, come on, there's not anybody living there for the first one. I don't know. So Crowley was said to have performed occultist rituals at the property when he lived there between 1899 and 1913. People fascinated by his beliefs have caused difficulties for the owners of the home and the local community by gathering uninvited at the house. Oh boy, this is taking a turn, isn't it? Local councillor Margaret Davidson said there were good quality plans for the future of the site, and she appealed to people with an interest in Crowley and the supernatural not to spoil them. She said, over the years, it's been a place where people have visited and become obsessed with the area. What? Say it isn't so. She'd been watching my YouTube channel. Margaret. It's not that I'm obsessed with the area, but when you've got a location where, like, one of the most evil guys that ever walked the face of the earth was doing magic, hey, you're going to get people talking about it and visiting it, right? So it says that has caused its own difficulty for people in Foyers and Inverfarigig. Try saying that one when you're drunk. The nearest villages, and I would wish that to stop for them. You know, it's really kind of, I suppose it's synchronistic when you think about it. But I come from Fort Augustus, which is right on the mouth of Loch Ness. But this is where all my family are from. Like, the graveyard that's just across the road from Crowley's house, the one that the underground tunnel goes to, that's, like, populated with my family members going back, way, way back. I remember going specifically to look at the cemetery one time with my mum and Frank and my brother, and the amount of McGruers that we came across, because that's a family name, that's from my mum's side, the McGruers, they're all from up there. So my family are born and bred on Boleskine land. So yeah, I do have a bit of an interest in this place. Deal with it. So it says Boleskine House was badly damaged by a blaze in 2015 before another fire ripped through the site in July last year. The Boleskine House Foundation has been granted planning permission for the rebuilding work, along with the reinstatement of its Category B listing, and for the construction of 10 holiday units. So now we're getting 10 chalets around the property. The timber-clad glass roof units would be a mix of 1 and 2 bedroom accommodation. Crowley, who passed in 1947, was notorious in the late 19th century and early 20th century for his promotion of the occult. During World War I, he wrote anti-British propaganda. He was also an experienced climber and was part of an ill-fated attempt to scale K2 in modern-day Pakistan in 1902. Isn't it interesting how we always talk about mountains and their connection with the paranormal, like Stargates, Paleo-Americans? Kevin, he tells us all the time about how they see mountains as very spiritual places. Luna down in Australia. You know, you could look at the temples down in Mexico, all across the world, the pyramids over in Egypt. These attempts to reach up into the heavens. Tower of Babel, we'll be talking about that tonight on the show with Derek Gilbert. You must have liked how I done that. But isn't it interesting that here we have a real occultist, and he was trying to get to the top of one of the biggest mountains in the world. Just what was he going to do at the top of that mountain? The mind boggles. But musician Jimmy Page of the band Led Zeppelin bought Boleskine House in the 1970s because of the Crowley connection, before later selling it. Now look, listen, there's not a lot goes on up there in around Foyers and Fort Augustus, and what I mean is This has got the potential to bring a few jobs. And I can't turn my nose up at that, because if somebody's going to get a job that didn't have a job, does it make them evil because they want to put food on the table and they get a job at that place? No. So there's a whole load of ways of looking at this. And I suppose an influx of people into the area, all those holiday homes, be it 10 at a time, that's 10 families maybe, 10 couples, 10 people. They're coming into the area, they're spending money in the local area. I get it. It's all good from that side of things. But it's the hocus pocus and what's going on late at night when the public are kind of locked out, not allowed into the property. And bear in mind, they've got these silly signs up saying you can't, like, even... In fact, I think I might still have them here. Wait a moment. I do. Well, that's the bonfires. That was like the pyres that were getting built inside just a few weeks ago. Maybe a month or so ago now. That isn't what I want to show you. It was this one here. No drone zone. No drone zone, right? And then you've got this. This property is protected by anti-climb paint. Anti-climb paint? What Orwellian kind of craziness is this? No liability can be accepted for damage or injury to persons or property coming into contact with the surfaces protected by this product. So they've got like poisonous paint on fences and things so you can't get in there. And that's just them doing it up, ladies and gentlemen. Can you blame the locals for worrying what's going to be going on when that place gets going again? I don't think you can. It's going to give me plenty to talk about though, because it's going to be one of these things that keeps on rumbling on. I think it's going to be a thing. I don't think the locals are going to be able to stop this from taking place. Then we have to start looking at, well, what's really happening? What's really going on behind locked doors late at night on these highly significant dates on the occult calendar? Like if it was open this year, what would they be doing for the Great Conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter? And talking of the Great Conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter, we've also got a solar eclipse coming up in America on the 14th of December. Probably a good idea to ask somebody like, oh, I don't know, maybe, oh, wrong one. Maybe Derek Gilbert would be able to talk about the signs in the skies. Yes, what all of these planetary movements and motions and cycles, what does it mean from a biblical perspective? Okay, I'm really looking forward to this tonight. I think you can tell that already. I'm going to go now. I'm going to go and get ready. I'm going to go and brush my eyebrows, straighten my beard, do my hair. Lockdown hair is out. Proud about it. Hey, listen. If you don't like my lockdown hair, oh, what can you do? There's only so long I can wear a hat. I look like a pure Jakey when I wear the hat. It's not a good look. Not a good look at all. I thought Anne was shouting me there. Sorry, folks. But I'm going to get going. I will bid you all adieu, ciao, adios. And like I say at the end of every stream, I usually mention the black goo. Jimmy has reignited my interest, and a good friend as well. Don't want to name them, but they've reignited my interest in the black goo. Yes, indeed. So with that said, let me get out of here. And please, please, please join me over on the main show in 24 minutes time over on tfrlive.com, or join us over in the disco. Until then, keep your mind open. Keep looking for the woo, but not to the point where your brain turns to black goo.